Hi there. I'm grateful for you choosing to spend time here. You chose to show up. That's the number one rule of success. Show the hell up. This is the intro to Writing Through the Brick Wall, where we'll look at the way of writing and writing essays in particular. An intro requires something to draw the audience in. A hook, let's call it, though it's more like bait. For the hook, you could use a joke, an intriguing quotation, an interesting story. In this case, I turn to Nas because he has good advice. All you need to write is a pen, some paper, and a little inspiration. Focus on this lesson, not because I'm important, but because you need to be able to focus to succeed. A distracted person will fail. Just stay in the moment and be present. Second chances are rare. You're going to hear me talk about the importance of having a focused purpose and a clear understanding of your audience. You're going to hear me talk about that a lot. So to be clear, my purpose for these lessons is to help people who are struggling with their writing, especially with writing essays. The audience I envision are high school students who are facing the writing portion of the SAT or its equivalent, the first year college students who have tested into developmental writing, and college students in general who feel like writing essays is like banging your head against a brick wall. Remember, there is no brick wall. There's only the opportunity to become a better writer and a better thinker. You can do this. I'll show you. And if there's others in the audience, you come too. I want to take a moment here to mention an option available to some of you. 2-year technical degrees from an accredited college can teach you skills that lead to a very nice career. And often you don't have to take those nasty core math and writing courses. But make sure you're taking that from an accredited college, not a non-accredited for-profit. Look into it. There's nothing wrong with having options. As to my credentials that qualify me to teach this subject, I hold a bachelor's degree in English and a master's in fine arts and creative writing from Florida International University. I taught composition, creative writing, literature, and critical thinking for 20 years at Florida Memorial University, the southernmost HBCU. Roar and roar and roar some more. I also taught at Lynn University and Miami-Dade College. At FMU, I received Teacher of the Year 3 times, along with Humanitarian of the Year and Scholar of the Year. I also ran the Writing Lab, and I edited the school's literary magazine. When I retired, I was a tenured Associate Professor of English, and I was the school's Director of Writing and Critical Thinking. I've taught second language English in Venezuela and Miami, and I've spent decades doing freelance professional editing. I'm an award-winning poet, fiction, and scriptwriter, and I helped the school earn quite a bit of money for educational grants with my scholastic writing. Those are my intellectual qualifications. You can do further research to see if I'm a good fit for you on LinkedIn or ratemyprofessor.com. Do your research. Even though I'm presenting these lessons, I wasn't particularly academic at your age. In fact, my undergraduate experience was pretty awful. I never asked questions or focused on anything. I'm guessing that sounds pretty familiar to some of you. It took me 7 years to get a 4-year degree. Now that wouldn't be bad if I had been going part-time all that time. But without a basic understanding of funding opportunities and advisement, I was just a lost and lousy student. I got academic probation twice. I was angry and self-defeating, and I hurt people who were trying to help. What a piece of shit, right? Benjamin Franklin said, "Whatever begins in anger ends in regret." Believe that. I worked a lot of crap jobs, like some of you are doing now. I fried chicken, stuffed tacos, drove taxi before Uber, I sold my blood, I did oil changes, I managed small-time rap and punk groups, I tended bar, I loaded refrigerators onto trains and trucks, but none of that made enough money to cover my tuition and rent. White male privilege, though I was unaware of the concept at the time, kept me afloat more than anything. I was toxic. My high school guidance counselor told me I would end up drunk in the gutters of New York. The only thing he got wrong was the city. He was the last advisor I ever went to see. I finally got my BA with a miserable 2.4 GPA after failing a lot of courses. Do better than me. I wasted time, money, and relationships. I know you can do better than that. 20 years passed before I made it back into graduate school. I attended at night after long days of work. But I used the lessons that I learned from all the bad decisions I'd made, and I maintained a 4.0 GPA. A few years later, I was teaching in a university classroom. I've learned a shit ton from my students and my colleagues. If a teacher isn't learning in a classroom, then he's stopped trying to master himself and isn't a good role model anymore. We must have a thirst for learning, for knowledge. From one lesson, we learn 1,000 things. But it's serious business. It requires self-discipline. I'm still learning that. I'm still trying to master myself. The process never ends. Check out Errol Moody's TED Talk on the secrets to student success. It's not required, but it just takes a few minutes and it's filled with foundational knowledge. Let's take a minute to address a piece of bullshit that's been around for a long time. There's people who say, those who can do, and those who can't teach. How much more belittling can we make the art of teaching? The biggest flaw in that thinking is that teaching is doing. It's hard to teach. When you run across a good teacher, you know it in your bones. And you know that having that teacher is a blessing. Why? Because teaching is hard. Why is that? Because students are a really tough audience, believe me, and it's not their fault. The school system requires that students learn a specific set of skills. Often the curriculum is influenced by politicians. How misguided is that? But still, students have to learn whatever that is. We may as well say that learning is a pill, and that students have to take this pill for 12 years or more if they want to go to college. So a teacher faces a room full of students who are dreading having to take this pill. These students are passive learners, waiting to be taught. Again, it's not their fault, because they were never trained any other way. I was a passive learner. But a person doesn't have to wait to be taught. She can want to learn. She can approach learning in a way that makes it easier for her and for her teachers to teach and to learn. And she'll carry that eagerness to learn new things into her career. Active learners rise, and passive learners wait for something to happen. Active learners ask questions and do research in advance, and passive learners, they grimace and wait for that pill of knowledge which they just as soon spit out. Passive learners often build brick walls in their minds and bang their heads against them. I know I did it for a very long time. Learning is like a game. When you first learn the game, you do badly and you get your ass whipped. But as you gain knowledge and skill, you start handing out the ass whippings. But that doesn't mean it isn't difficult. Most things come at you in levels. Once you've learned one level, like addition and subtraction, along comes multiplication and division. You only stop learning when you decide to stop learning. Don't ever decide to stop learning. Which brings up another piece of pure horseshit. They will tell you that if you enjoy what you're doing, you'll never work a day in your life. Nonsense. You'll work, and you'll work harder and longer than anyone else. But you will enjoy it, and you'll be rewarded for it most of the time. It's not about being smart or gifted. It's about showing up, taking notes, doing the assignments, and asking questions. You showed up here. You may as well succeed. Throughout these videos, we'll be covering the theory and practice of writing and communication. We'll cover the basics. It's stuff that you've probably all heard before. But that's what education is. Being exposed to ideas again and again until something sticks. For almost anyone, the best way to secure knowledge, to internalize knowledge, is to practice. That's what homework is. That's what practice in sports is, or in dance, or learning to run a backhoe. How do you think you learn to drive? It takes practice. It takes an understanding of the theories of the field, seeing the matrix, the big picture, and the details. And it requires you put in the sweat equity to hone those skills. Do the damn assignments. Or don't. It's your choice. Maybe the time isn't right for you now. But life goes by quickly. The days go slow, but the years fly. Believe that. Tick-tock. In writing, practice can be a tough and tedious job. But we'll go over the basics to make it a little bit easier. I'll also throw in some complex concepts, and we won't have time to go into them deeply. That's for you to follow up. Writing's going to matter to your career. Doctors write, lawyers write, social workers write, engineers write, everyone in law enforcement writes. There isn't a good career that doesn't require writing. Year after year, writing proficiency is one of the top 3 skills that employers say they're looking for in candidates. It's just as important as having a teamwork mentality or being a self-starter. I won't be assigning writing or giving you homework or giving you feedback. I'm a video. There'll be short quizzes at the end of each section, and the answers will be there too. But getting answers to the complex questions is what your professors are for. Go to her office, ask her questions, talk to her, get to know her, let her get to know you. Go to the writing lab, learn who the tutors are. Get to know them early in the semester so that when it gets crowded later on in the semester, you get a little preferential treatment. Use every opportunity open to you. Open your mind, be courageous, knock on doors, ask questions, look at the supplemental material that I'm offering to you. Go down the rabbit hole. That's where Alice changed her life. You may have failed in the past. I sure did. And we're going to fail, you and I, going forward. But that's how we learn. Not just to write, but how to succeed. And it's also how we learn who we are. The blessed, the ugly, and the possibilities. So that's the introduction. It was flawed, but serviceable. It had a hook to draw you in. It had a theme to let you know about the bigger picture. and it established a contract with the audience to let you know that something of value is coming. That's what an introduction should do. These classes won't be perfect. Your writing won't be either. But we will be improving. And improvement is the goal here, our purpose. Take learning seriously. Great writing is critical thinking at its highest. From one lesson, you learn 1,000 things. So let's get into it. Like Nas said, all you need is a pen, a page, and some inspiration. See you next class.